What do you regret finding out? After my dad died, my mom before she died said he always felt my struggles were because of him accidentally dropping me down the stairs as a baby. I struggled in school with math and physically I have a form of muscular dystrophy, but we didn't know that at the time, so he believed my physical issues were his fault. It apparently ate him up and helped fuel parts of his depression. I didn't need to know that. That my mom knew my stepfather was abusing me and did nothing. I always blamed my best friend's erratic behavior on mental health issues until one day I found her passed out on my toilet and realized that her behavior always got erratic after bathroom visits. Unfortunately, she may have mental health issues, but an addiction to certain drugs was the reason for most of her behavior. When I was around 10 years old, I was sitting on the couch and my older sister came towards me with a knife and stabbed a hole in the cushion about a foot from my leg. She pulled the knife out and immediately told me not to tell Dad. I was young and naive, and my sister had kind of twisted sense of humor, so I really didn't know what to think. It definitely did some damage now that I look back on it. Years later, my sister announced that she had planned to attack me with a knife, but chickened out at the last moment. At this point I had all but moved on from the incident, but this brought it all back and then some. My ex said not to worry about a guy when we were together, and she ended up marrying him after 5 years. How good it feels to be high on opiates. My brother's girlfriend's NSFW Reddit account. It's supposed to be a couple's account, so you might guess the horrors I saw in there. Realizing I'm not all that okay with being a loner. It was easier when I didn't care that I had very few friends. Sad face. That my dad abused my sister. This comment is kind of maybe blowing up, so I wanted to clarify something. I wasn't the one that found out. My sister confronted him, one of the bravest things I know of, and legal proceedings began. One night my mom got all of us together and told us. Learning from my sister that my father told her that my mom's mom was not paralyzed from the waist down because she fell off a fence. It is that she was beaten so badly by the man she was seeing at the time. When I was about 14, my mom took me to a tattoo shop to get her nipples pierced. While the procedure was happening, she turned to me and said, "Your dad bites harder than that." I could have lived without that info. How many cockroaches there are in Australia? The one that climbed my foot as I sat in the evening gaming freaked me out. It's something that my parents regret. Not telling my brother at an early age he's adopted. My mother died in a car accident when I was 3. I found out from a newspaper article years later that it was her fault. She wasn't paying attention and crossed the yellow line and ended both her life and that of the person in the other car. I regret finding out that a priest I used to admire was a pedophile and has since been defrocked. That my mother knew she had cancer a year before she told anyone, or rather, a year before she was diagnosed, after I literally forced her to see a doctor for her then extremely distended stomach. I was under the impression that we told each other absolutely everything because up until that point, we did. I found out the truth a month after she died when ID requested all of her cancer-related paperwork from her oncologist. Looking on my ex-GF's phone when we were on a trip to Ithaca, New York, I would take any physical pain I've had so far over that I felt when I saw the things on there. Totally gut-wrenching. I wanted to marry her. Found out my girlfriend told my parents I was extremely suicidal and they responded, "So, what do you want us to do about that?" And they never brought it up again. Few months after, they kicked me out for textbook depression. I found out my mom cashed out my plan program that froze college tuition prices for me at cost of $19.91 pricing. My grandmother set up and put money in. She used the $25,000 in it to pay off IRS from problems she incurred due to drug addiction. About my mom ducking her cousin. Woke up in the middle of the night hearing her say his name. Ugh. Haunting. Just how close my pilonidal cyst, a hole that forms where your tail was as a fetus, was to making contact with my spine. I had an open wound for a year because the first surgeon was a ducking joke and it ripped immediately, and he told me to take sit baths to help it close up naturally. By the time 11 months later I got the second surgery, it was apparently only millimeters from tunneling to my spine, which could have caused me infection or death. I wish I never knew how close it was. BC, I am terrified it's still tunneling on the inside even though completely closed now on the outside. The traumatic events that happened when I was 5 that my brain deliberately forgot until recently because it's just bad. All these comments are so sad, and I just regret finding out that Leroy Jenkins was staged. That my best friend took her own life. She told me she was moving and gave me all her stuff because she said she had a furnished room where she was going. I hadn't heard from her in a while and she never answered my texts, so I looked up her name to see if she had an accident. Nope. It was suicide. The kicker is she had talked me out of it back in 2014 and I wasn't able to be there for her. EDA. Thank you all so much for your kind words. They mean more than you know. I love all of you. EDA. I'm doing better after reading all your kind words and messages. I wish I could reply to each one personally. Thank you again for your kindness. My dad informed me when I got back from Iraq that I was the reason he and my mother got a divorce. I never really wanted to join the military anyways. And it ducked me up big time. They had financial troubles and my mom sent me care packages quite a lot. Apparently. That put them into bankruptcy. And if I hadn't joined, it wouldn't have happened. I just wanted to get out of that house because it was like I didn't exist. That I'm ugly. There used to be a website called TrueGore. Do not recommend. Junko Furita. Black Dahlia. Degloving. Murder videos. Implements. I learned about all of these from this website. My ex is with a guy who is where I wanted to be in life 5 years ago. Delete Facebook, dude. Finding out my father figure, mom's BF, is sexually attracted to me. Even more so since I gave birth. That my mother doesn't actually care for me but uses me as material to show off how much of a good mother she is and denies it by buttering me up to be more grateful about my life. Really hurt. After we broke up, I found out my ex had been online looking for a sugar daddy only 3 months into our 12-month relationship. I thought the whole time she was genuine. Turns out most of the time she was lying to my face. She broke up with me and started ducking her sugar daddy she had found 2 months before she dumped me. I regret finding out about Reddit. Now I'm on it 24/7. Good education does not translate into a good job. Study hard and you'll have an easy life later on is what I was made to believe. I'm in search of a job right now. And I've never felt this betrayed. It's like I woke up and living a nightmare. That my parents paid less attention to me than any of my other siblings. It still affects me to this day, and while I have certainly made progress on it, it still is hard to get over the favoritism that still continues.